Welcome back to Spirit Squared. I'm Andrew Darrington, your host. We're here at the Beckham Hotel in Mineola, Texas for episode 18. Josh and I have been doing this for going on a year now. We're inching up, getting closer and closer. We've got a great guest, but before we get to our guest, we want to thank Sarah and Chris for providing this great spot for us to host our podcast. We also want to thank our audience. Thank y'all for coming. But most importantly, we've got both of our sponsors here tonight. So Thomas and Martha, thank you so much for having the confidence in us, what we're producing and what our goals are. Really, truly appreciate what you guys have done for us. It's helped us provide new equipment and obviously transportation and all that good stuff. We also have Blake and Virginia Young here with the Humidor and with Vault Arms. It's their anniversary, which, crazy enough, he's a crazy cat for bringing her here for an anniversary, but I mean, it could be worse. Yes, date night.
She loves it.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you guys so much for believing in us and putting financial resources in for us. Obviously, again, equipment, resources, and all that good stuff. And we have a strong partnership with you guys, doing some live shows and doing some fun things down there. We are booked until October, which is crazy with guests. And we've got a variety of guests that are coming up that we'll talk about a little bit later in the show. So, without further ado, we've got Riley Hughes here from Bendt Distilling out of Louisville, Texas.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. So, you've already talked a little bit about East Texas, but before we get started on anything else, we got to get some juice in some people's
Absolutely.
glasses. This is Bendt number 5, right?
Yes, sir.
It's a blend of 5 whiskeys.
Yeah, so a blend of bourbon, rye, wheat, malt, and light whiskey. So 5 completely separate whiskeys that we distill on site, all grain to glass. Highlighting local grain too, that's our big thing. We get all of our grain from anywhere between 10 to 25 miles from the distillery. So it really truly is about as locally crafted as we can get. And for those of you that don't know where Louisville, Texas is, it's basically halfway between Dallas and Fort Worth, about 20 minutes north of DFW Airport. So pretty centrally located to all the buzz happening in North Texas right now. So just
Cool.
hour and 45 minutes from here.
We're going to play a little music while we do this sampling. I told you this
do
would be... Boom! I thought that'd be a fun start to
That is a fun start. Love a good comeback.
Yes. So, you're from Keller originally?
I am from Keller,
Yeah? And you played golf there. You
Yeah.
told me that. You're an American, All-American golfer?
I was. In my previous life, I was a fairly decent golfer. And
Mine too.
yeah, I grew up playing in Keller and graduated Keller High School, went to school up in Kansas, and was an All-American my senior year, which was one of my big goals, major goals, was to be an All-American. And from there, went to grad school, and then did a little bit of traveling, which professional golf life is not as glamorous as it looks on television. Those guys are the 1% of the 1% of golfers.
Right.
We travel out of suitcases, and if you miss the cut, you don't get any money, first off, and you basically just drive to the next spot.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not glamorous by any means. So I did that for a couple years. Decided to get a real job,
Yeah.
selling wine. So that's kind of just progressed to here, and now we're up to whiskey.
Gotcha. So talk to us a little bit about the start of the distillery.
Yeah.
Early days, kind of how it got formed, and some of the principles or thoughts about launching something in North Texas.
Yeah. So the original idea. So Ryan and Natasha Dehart are our current owners, original founders, with a guy named Quentin Witherspoon. Ryan and Quentin were Marines, and they were Marine buddies. And funny enough, after Ryan left the Marines, he was in Germany. They all lived in Germany, and they fell in love with craft beer. And so back in the early 2000s, before the craft beer boom here hit, we couldn't get anything craft beers. Bud Light, Coors Light, Miller Lite, all that. So they were home brewing. She'll tell you they turned their front coat closet into a wall of taps. And so they had, 10, 12, 20 beers on tap at the house.
Yeah.
And so they were making beer. Quentin was making rum in his garage, which is not suggested. That is illegal. And so they decided to form an actual legal operation. So it really started as rum, as you may or may not know. Distilleries don't just start day one with whiskey. Whiskey takes time. So most everybody starts with rum or vodka, something basically to pay the bills, keep the lights on. So that was originally the reason it was started, kind of out of a love for a necessity, I guess, to make their own. You don't want to have to buy it, you just make your own. So they decided to do that, and it kind of just progressed and turned into making whiskey. And fast forward 13 years later, I think we're doing a pretty damn good job of making really good whiskey, high quality whiskey. So that was originally why it started. And we were in I think it was 2,000 or 3,000 square foot building, if that. Everything was hand bottled, everything was hand done. It was half a dozen people running the whole operation. And now we're up to 30 or 40 total full-time employees, full-time, part-time. So, back in the day, we've obviously graduated into a much larger facility. Fast forward to 2015, I don't know how far ahead you want me to get. But yeah, 2015, we moved into an abandoned Piggly Wiggly grocery store. I'm sure there were some Piggly Wigglies out here in East Texas. So yeah, they had been abandoned in 2002. It was basically infested with rodents and homeless people for 13 years. Came in, tore down all the walls, and basically built out a distillery. So we went from 2,000 square feet to 16,000 square feet, which is our current operation where we're at now. Full on site. So we have a full bar. We have basically 30% of the whole facility is a bar, restaurant, retail area, and then the other rest is going to be rick house, production, all of that. So has anybody ever been there besides the two of y'all? Really, really cool spot. I mean, I say it's not just steel tanks and grain. We have a full cocktail lounge, hangout. It's very intimate. We're in the middle of a neighborhood. People used to shop at this store, so I say we're the neighborhood distillery. You go on a date night, something like that. You go and you get your charcuterie board, have a couple cocktails, and feel like home, rather than maybe go into a big I know Tito's doesn't have a distillery, but something that would be like a massive operation. You're just thinking still tanks and juice. So
the most distinct thing that I remember, other than what we'll get to with the baking and all that kind of stuff that you do that a lot of distillers don't, is you got a drink, or I got a drink to start the tour.
Yep.
And it was like the longest old fashioned ever, because it's just methodical and just stirring forever. It seemed like forever.
Yeah.
And then I was able to carry that cocktail throughout the tour, which is kind of unique.
Yeah.
You can't do that at Buffalo Trace. You can't do that at a variety of different distilleries.
There's probably a reason why. I don't imagine we want glass breaking back there. So there's probably some legality issues, but hey, we'll just leave it there. Yeah. I mean, we encourage people, grab a cocktail. Tours take 45 minutes to an hour, so we don't want you to be dehydrated. We'll give you some water, but most of the time you're going to have a cocktail.
Yeah.
So have a cocktail before you get in. Enjoy your tour, and then at the end of the tour you get four spirits.
That's right.
Generally, it's our pre-made old fashioned, bet number 5, our bourbon cream, and then one of our distillery exclusives, which would be like a gin or a rum or a vodka, whatever it might be at the time. We're releasing an Applejack brandy tomorrow, so for probably the next month it'll be brandy, but generally something unique. But yeah, I think it's a really fun experience that once you go and do it. I hadn't been to a distillery ever until I went to Old Forester years ago, and now I'm a huge Old Forester fan.
Yeah, me too.
But you really grab onto that actual story and being in the building and seeing it and understanding what labor and love it takes to actually make this stuff. It doesn't just happen overnight. So
I think the other distinct part is you're walking in the rick house, and there's anywhere from 15 to 20 people typically in a lot of those tours. Your tour guides I don't know if they do still now, but do they still wear suspenders? They did.
Yeah, most of the time I think Chris has been there. He's one of our longest employees. I think we've calculated he's done something like 1,000 tours.
Right.
He's looks like Santa Claus. He's got a really long beard. Probably the guy that did your tour.
And you have an American flag that's strewn on one of the rick houses.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, it's back there. We've had to do some rearranging, obviously with some expansion stuff. But we take pride. I mean, obviously Ryan being a Marine.
Sure.
veteran-owned, female-owned. We like to highlight that. So yeah, we're American proud.
Right. Yeah, walking in a rick house is much different than just walking on a railing looking at a rick house.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of the distillers do.
I love to just walk back there and I find different barrels pretty much every time I'm back there. You're looking at 300-400 barrels and
Right.
You don't know which one's which, and then you see, oh, that one was distilled on this day, or it's got these grains in it, or it's this whiskey, is something unique we haven't released yet. So it is fun. It's fun to look at and fun to see, and I mean it's probably the coolest office I think I could have.
Definitely. There's a lot of distilleries that don't offer food.
Yeah.
And you guys do. Any ideas on what their thought process was bringing food there?
Yeah, I think it kind of goes back to the whole neighborhood thing. I mean, we want people to come and I say it all the time. I don't think anybody comes and just does the tour and leaves. We hope that they don't do that. I think if anybody's watched Bar Rescue here or whatever, John Taffer always says that if you serve food, people will stay for 50 minutes or an hour extra. So we want you to be able to come and enjoy, and have a bite, and you're not going and getting chicken fried steak or ribeye or whatever. You're just basically having bites and stuff. But
Sure.
I think it just being able to kind of share, and we have obviously the whiskey cake, which everybody will get to enjoy here in a little bit. But that kind of evolved into our baker making focaccia bread and chocolate chip cookies and doing beef jerkies and bacon and all kinds of stuff. So, I mean, we go and pretty much anything you can infuse with whiskey, we try to do it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, our sandwiches are I'm not even a general sandwich guy. We have an Italian sandwich that I could eat pretty much every day.
Right.
So it's just, I think people will stay and have a much more enjoyable time rather than just coming in. I think a lot of people, when you think you're going to a distillery, you're going to walk up, you're going to go to the retail spot, you're going to have your 2 or 3 samples, maybe a cocktail, and then you're going to leave. And for us, we have, you probably haven't seen it since we put in the new layout, but chairs. We used to have couches, so it was very homey environment. You can just come in and relax, and we say all the time it's family friendly. We had an 8-year-old's birthday party, and
Wow.
we'll let anybody come in and they can't go in the back of the distillery, but kids are allowed in there, and we have families and all the time.
Right. So, stepping back into the history, and I was just reviewing your website,
Yeah.
and kind of digging into it a little bit. It said Cross Timbers was one of those revolutionary things that you guys came across that kind of got them into malt whiskeys. Can you talk to us a little bit about that and kind of how it's led us to this?
Yeah, I mean, we use malt in everything. I mean, malt has, for most people, the enzymes and the sugars in malt is what really kind of ignites whiskey when you're fermenting. So malt's not a huge category. I mean, it is in Scotland. Malt is massive, but single malts and American single malts specifically are not huge. And I think that was something that it kind of leans towards Bendt number 5 as something that's enjoyable, easy to drink. Everybody, Scotch is the most drank spirit I think in the world.
It is.
So it's something that's really enjoyable to the masses. I think that's probably where they found it to be something that they could really people can grab onto. And malt was pretty readily available. We've had some issues in the past getting good Texas grain. We don't anymore. We have really good grain partners. But malt's really readily available from Tex Malt and Fort Worth.
Yeah.
That's where pretty much everybody gets their stuff from. So I think that was another just probably easy thing for us to get out for the most part. And then that kind of leads into everything. So I think that was kind of the segue from rum to malt and now to a whole mess of whiskeys. A little bit of everything, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we have something for everybody for the most part. We like to think so.
In 2017, you guys start bottling pre-made beverages and things like that.
Yeah.
I think that your distillery goes unnoticed. It goes under the radar for some of these pre-made stuff.
Yeah.
When I go into the store, I'm not gravitated towards pre-made beverages, but I've had a number of yours, and they're out of bounds good.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, and funny enough, we talk about
You kind of
this
touched
today.
on it, but
Yeah, I mean, even this morning we were tasting a new. I hate to call it RTD at this point because RTDs, anybody knows, ready to drinks. Someone was drinking a High Noon over here. I don't know where. A High Noon. So High Noon that's what we consider ready to drink. I'm calling these like ready to pours or ready to serve at this point. It's a little bit cooler, I think. But I mean, the old fashioned that we do, I mean, it is made basically just to be a home bartender. I mean, we were tasting some this morning it will be our next iteration of that line. But we wanted something that was really easy for everybody to kind of, again, latch onto. Everybody likes an old fashioned. It's the number 2 selling cocktail in the country. And I always say an old fashioned is probably the easiest cocktail that nobody knows how to make, and nobody knows how to make a good one.
Right.
So you always feel like you have to go to a restaurant or a bar to get a good old fashioned.
Or get a million ingredients.
Yeah. And you don't need, if you're going to buy an old fashioned, you got to buy your peeler, you got to get your oranges, you got to get your bitters, you got to get sugar, simple. Pretty soon you're 6 ingredients or 6 steps into this thing, and we're like, what's the best way to navigate doing something? Let's just put it in a bottle for you. I think you're talking to a hip artist, you can pretty much drink in a setting.
Oh yeah. A
single setting if you try. I mean, I think I've probably gotten pretty close, but it's just really, it's easy to drink, and I think home bartending is a thing that came from COVID, but I think it's just another easy thing that people can latch onto and gravitate towards and really enjoy. I say, if I have 10 friends over and they ask me to make them old fashions, I'm not whipping up 10 old fashions for my friends. That's going to take me 45 minutes to do.
You're going to pour it over ice.
Yeah, I'm just going to, hey, here, cool, I have my own bottle. I'm just going to give me 10 ice cubes and 10 glasses, and here we go. Right. So I think that's it's a completely different category that obviously exploded during COVID. But we just kind of took advantage of it because we were kind of ahead of the curve. With the Witherspoon Old Fashioned,
right?
And it's doing really well. I mean, I don't foresee it slowing down. I think the Old Fashioned is always it's a timeless cocktail.
Sure.
I don't think it's going to go anywhere. So,
what about the bitters?
I mean,
still producing the bitters?
Yeah. No, we try to make everything. I mean, we make all of our syrups, all of our bitters. I mean, we were making.
What meaning I can buy it? I can buy your bitters?
No, it's one thing that I've had the question asked. I mean, I think we likely will. Maybe like a gift shop type thing.
Yeah.
But I think I would like to do it as something, peach bitters or whatever. Do something cool that's Natasha. I mean, our owner, she makes all that stuff. Everything is her recipe. So I mean, she's even got like an Aperol type, Campari type recipe that we haven't taken to market yet. But she likes to have her hand on everything, which is cool.
Yeah, awesome. Want to pour more?
Sure.
You guys ready?
Why not?
For another pour? All right.
The Humidor is your online cigar retailing headquarters. Our experienced staff has spent years finding some of the best cigars from around the world to sell to our customers. If you're looking for an online cigar store that can help you find your next favorite smoke, welcome to the Humidor. We began the Humidor because of our deep appreciation of the finer things in life. A good conversation with friends, an aged whiskey, and, of course, a fine smoke. That's why, in addition to selling premium cigars online, we also operate a brick-and-mortar cigar lounge in Tyler, Texas. Our lounge is crafted to provide a classic ambience with modern sensibilities, and we've spent time ensuring that smokers and non-smokers have an enjoyable experience, whether they're there for a drink with friends or to enjoy the game.
If you are looking for a reputable builder with a proven track record and a client base to back it up, give Red Construction and Development LLC a call. Red Construction offers full design build services for new construction, custom homes, and remodeling with free site evaluations. They have an A+ rating with the BBB and are proud members of the Tyler Area Builders Association, Texas Association of Builders, National Association of Home Builders, and the Lindale Area Chamber of Commerce. Red Construction and Development LLC stands behind the exceptional quality of their work and have the expertise, the resources, and dedication to deliver the results you need on time and on budget. To learn more, give them a call at 903-630-8660 or visit them online at redconstructiondevelopment.com.
I was talking about it the other day. They do a chocolate malted rye, and it's very, very chocolatey, which I kind of enjoy. depending on the day.
All right.
Cool.
Ready to resume?
Yeah.
All right. Cheers,
Rock and roll.
by the
Cheers.
way.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming, by the way.
Absolutely.
So I hate to start the segment with kind of a downside, but kind of a positive side.
Sure.
2018, Mr. Witherspoon decides to do something different.
Yeah.
So that's a big transformation. That's a big piece of the pie.
Yep.
It was at the time. Now, obviously, regroup happens, and a new kind of beacon is set.
Yep.
Yep. And you guys order a weird piece of equipment that not many distilleries have.
No. Yeah, so Quentin Witherspoon, who was one of the three original owners, founders, we say he got a real job. He gets a paycheck, as most of you guys may or may not know. They say distilleries likely don't make money for the first 10 years. That's a lot of upfront capital, putting a lot of money into grain, a lot of money into barrels, and then just basically sitting on those for 2 to 5, 6, 7 years. In Kentucky, you're talking 15, 20, 25 years. But they've been doing it hundreds of years, not 15 years like us.
By the way, can I stop you real quick?
Yeah?
We're having the straight malt whiskey.
Yeah.
So this is the unbent, which we didn't really bring that up. We
Yeah.
can. What unbent means, we can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
But we're having the unbent malt whiskey.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite whiskeys. It is my favorite whiskey we make. I preach about this all the time. American single malts, which we just kind of talked about, are starting to become much more of a thing. This is not a true American single malt. That would be 100% malted barley. This is going to be 60% malted barley, 40% red winter wheat. So for any of y'all that like Mr. Maker's Mark, that's the exact same grain that goes in the Maker's Mark. So I really I like this joke. Someone told it to me when I was doing a tasting. They said this whiskey is light and rich at the same time. And I said, that's what I want to be when I grow up, is light and rich.
Yeah.
So this one, I really, if you can find a whiskey that you can drink every day of the week and not get tired of it, I think that makes a really good whiskey, and that's what this one is for me. I just think it's really enjoyable. So all the unbent, so Bendt number 5, Bendt is just a play on straight. We kind of touched on this before you guys got here. But previously in American whiskey history, blended whiskey has kind of been a dirty word. Everybody kind of associates it with garbage whiskey. A lot of people associate it with neutral grain spirit, which is essentially vodka. And we're not using vodka or neutral grain spirit in this. We use light whiskey, which I can kind of touch on. But light whiskey was created in the 60s and 70s when gin and vodka was on the rise. And whiskey was declining pretty heavily. So light whiskey is distilled basically to a higher proof, but has to be aged in ex-bourbon barrels or brand new non-charred barrels. So it doesn't take any of that natural caramelization, color, everything that you would get from a bourbon. So we are using a three-year-old whiskey in that. And so we're kind of trying to take blends and bring it back to where it should be, and using it as using quality ingredients and true whiskey to make it. So Bendt is our blends, and then we have unbent. So we take the whiskeys that are in Bendt number 5 and we unbend them, and that's what creates the unbent line. So the malt we're tasting, the bourbon we're going to taste, the wheat we're tasting, the rye we're going to taste, are all whiskeys that go into Bendt number 5. So I always say that a lot of distilleries do one thing really, really good. I like to think that we do 4 or 5 things really good, which is really difficult to do. So yeah, that's the whiskey on this one. So, but yeah, kind of go back to the departure. So yeah, 2018, I think 2017, 2018 was when it happened. And so Quentin left, leaving Ryan and Natasha to move into a new direction. So previously we were doing rums and whiskeys and maybe sourcing some whiskeys, not really doing true Texas stuff. And so we completely switched gears, went to all Texas whiskeys, all Texas grains, created Bendt number 5, brought on Sazerac as a minority partner. Yep. For those of you that may not know what Sazerac is, they happen to make Blanton's, Eagle Rare, Pappy Van Winkle, pretty much all the cool badass whiskeys. So a good partner to have. Moved into our new building, which they helped with us, and then we bought this, or had this big still made that if you guys ever see it, it looks like a submarine. I'll pass around a picture later on. I'll show a picture. But it is 2,100 gallons. So just imagine. I mean, I think you could probably fit 4 or 5 good-sized humans in there. It's huge, but it looks like a submarine. Like you could just take it underwater.
Right.
But basically, that we wanted to make something, or we wanted to have something that was made to go through our door at the distillery. Being an old Piggly Wiggly, it already had infrastructure, and we couldn't go through the roof. The roof is covered in solar panels, so we are energy efficient.
That's cool.
Most of our electricity we get from the grid upstairs, and so we couldn't go through the roof. So we needed to build something that obviously could make a lot of whiskey and make really good whiskey. So we have this massive. I mean, it's got to be what, 15 feet long, 20 feet long. It's huge.
I thought it was longer than that.
It might be.
It could be.
Yeah, it's huge. So yeah, we had that, and that's kind of where everything starts out on, is that big sub-still, is what we call it. And yeah, so that was installed, I think, 2018. So it's been cranking out a lot of juice for the last 5 years. Every run that we put in there is 2,000 gallons.
Yeah.
Produces about 3 barrels. So when I started, we were doing, I think, between 6 and 9 barrels a week. Now we're doing about 40 to 60 barrels a week.
Wow.
So we've obviously expanded big time, which adds more shifts.
Yeah.
More shifts, more booze, more grain, more capital. But we again are preparing for the future. So 3-5 years down the road, we have enough whiskey to basically.
How long does it normally take from start to finish to get something in a barrel?
That is about full like grain, like
Yeah,
actual
because
grain.
are you pulverizing grain there?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have a hammer mill
Yeah.
that we on site. Like
Which
we
is
had a
scary
whole-
enough.
Yeah, so we had a whole, we had a whole truck drop off corn this morning. I think
Yeah.
it was corn. But yeah, from start to finish, it's about 7 days.
Okay.
Yeah, so we previously had the 3 fermentation tanks. There were 2,000 gallons apiece. So basically, one of those fermentation tanks we take and we go into the substill, and that would create 3 barrels of whiskey. We just installed 2 4,000 gallon fermenters. So we went from 6,000 capacity to 14,000. Math is hard. 14,000. So we basically kind of 2.5 times our production size, kind of over the span of a week or two, once we got these things installed. So,
Right.
So we can basically, we got enough to fill the sub 7 times.
Wow.
So that thing runs 24 hours a day for the most part.
Right.
So we're making a lot of whiskey, which as the salesperson, I'm like, cool, I'm gonna have to sell all that in 5 years.
Something
better
else
get
that
ready.
you guys did, and just before you got started, and we'll talk a little bit
Yeah.
about that, is you guys had to find somewhere to store your whiskey.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't store it in the Piggly Wiggly.
No, yeah, it's not big enough. I mean, we have our rick in there. It holds somewhere between 300-ish barrels. It's not huge. It's about 25 to 30 feet tall. So we have 200 or 300 barrels in there. And then, yeah, we have an offsite storage. Legally speaking, to be a bonded whiskey, I had to learn this too. It has to be aged within 10 miles of your DSP, distilled spirits permit. So we have a warehouse up the street that houses about 3,000 barrels. They're all on pallets. If you're a whiskey person, a lot of people have this. It is called a bung. Yes, it's called a bung, and it goes in the bung hole. Yeah. So a lot of people put it on the top. A lot of people put it on the side. We've not found that it makes a difference in Texas. So we're back to side bungs, but top bungs, we basically just palletize everything, and we're just stacking these things on top of each other. It takes up a lot less space, and it's a lot easier to transport rather than sliding them on a traditional rick. And so I haven't actually seen the warehouse. I should make it over there at some point. Because I hear it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think it's about 4 or 5 pallets high at this point.
Do you know if they're moving them around, or they just keep them where they're at?
Yeah, I
'Cause
mean-
they're bourbon people are like, oh, well, high ricks are the thing, or low ricks, or one that's maybe in the sun or out of the sun.
I don't think there's an actual science to it right now. I think we just kind of cram them in there wherever they'll fit for the most part. We will. Next project is to build an actual rick house, so we don't have to lease our space. We're leasing it, so obviously that's
finding some land.
Yeah. The city of Louisville, we're working with about building a couple properties that will house 5,000 or 10,000 barrels apiece.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, they're in the distillery. We have the higher up in the corner. We have like a really hot spot in the corner that we get really high proof alcohol from.
Yeah.
As opposed to down low, that obviously is not getting near as much. But I think there's probably some fluctuation and shifting depending on what we're pulling. If it's time to pull rye, if it's time to pull bourbon, we'll move it here or there. So depends on lots. We're pulling whiskey probably every day, but really pulling full barrels probably once or twice a month to bottle. So it just depends on. We have two guys that's pretty much their entire job.
Just get drunk on the job.
Yeah, I mean, they're pulling samples. They're over there driving forklifts around, moving stuff up, moving stuff down. Now they're, I guess, what a barrel of whiskey is probably 4 feet tall. So he has them stacked 4 or 5 high. So I mean, it's 20, 30 feet up in the air.
Right.
These things. So it's not.
Yeah, if I had that job, I'd need a golf cart
Yeah.
to drive home with,
Yeah, I've suggested
just sampling all day long, which is an awesome thing to do.
Well, luckily, Ryan and Natasha live about 3 blocks from the distillery. So if they need to, they will walk home.
Yeah.
They generally do, actually. They'll walk back to the distillery on the weekends. So it just depends. But it's nice to be close.
Yeah. All right. So you start in 2020.
Yeah.
Which is like right as COVID starts. So after we get done start talking about this, we're definitely going to need a drink.
Yeah.
So let's talk about
certainly.
Let's talk about the distillery during COVID.
Yeah.
How did it meet those challenges, and what were some of the things that they did to kind of maneuver things around? Because from what I read, I mean, it was like many distilleries, other businesses, it was just very close to ending it.
Yeah, I mean, I started March 11th, 2020. If we can go back on timeline, I think March 16th or 18th was the day that everything fully shut down.
Right.
So it was a Wednesday. I remember I started on a Wednesday. The following Thursday, I was sitting in front of a Gatorade jug filled with hand sanitizer, filling up as many 50 ml bottles as I could.
Yeah.
We had already been making sanitizer from tails, heads, whatever one is better for sanitizer. Right. So we were already making it, which was good because we were using it to clean the floors.
Yeah.
And so we just took that production on to a much larger scale.
Right.
So we really, we were one of the first people that there wasn't really any guidelines from the FDA at that point. We were just kind of doing it just to keep people safe. Had to be, I think it was 85% alcohol or 80% alcohol or above to be considered would kill any germs.
Right.
So yeah, we were cranking them out. Sazerac was sending us bottles. Western Sons was sending us bottles. I mean, everywhere we could get bottles. I think we donated something like 100,000 50 ml bottles of sanitizer. Mm-hmm. We were at one point, and I like to tell this story because it's really funny. And Natasha calls me and says, "Hey, I just bought a tanker full of neutral grain spirit, which we were going to use to make sanitizer. It was 6 figures. It was a sizable investment for just to give away, essentially." She said, "I need you to figure out how to get in touch with Mark Cuban today. We need some money." I said, "Okay, cool. Let's do that." So I went on Reddit and I found all 3 of Mark Cuban's email addresses and I fired off this email, and about 6 hours later I got an email back from Mr. Cuban. It's like mcuban@gmail.com. It's a very generic email. He emailed me back, asked me a couple questions, and I brought Natasha in. He wired us $50,000 and said,
"Wow,
thank you for what you guys are doing." So Clay Jenkins, our Dallas judge, got involved, and so we got a lot of philanthropic. Natasha was in Forbes, and she was in Martha Stewart. She had to decline a Martha Stewart interview because she was so busy. Martha Stewart still put her on the cover of the article for doing sanitizer. So yeah, we did all that. Obviously we were still making whiskey, we were still trying to sell it, but the challenge was, like I mentioned earlier, is that everybody was shopping online. I remember going into a Total Wine during COVID, and they had transformed their back room into a staging area for all the to-go orders because people were just picking them up, coming up to the front and picking them up.
Right.
And so, as most of y'all know, you're not craft shopping on TotalWine.com. You're going on, you're buying Bulleit, you're buying Woodford, you're buying Jack Daniels, you're buying Jameson. You're not going in and window shopping for craft spirits. And so for us, we really struggled. It was tough for a while. We didn't let anybody go. I stayed on. I was lucky to keep my job the whole time. But yeah, we basically shuttered the doors for, I think, 18 full months at the bar. We didn't have any booze flowing at the bar at all. So it was tough, but yeah, I say we can look back on that now, and we don't hopefully ever have to worry about that again. But yeah, I think it's one of those that it was unfortunate. We got this bourbon cream was one of the things that came out of it. They took a lot of time to kind of figure out the direction we wanted to go with all these. There's probably a lot of design work happening, and I pretty much just clawed my way at all the stores possible, trying to get, you know, as much face time as I could. So now that we're on the right side of daisies and don't have to worry about that anymore. I mean, I think we're obviously stronger from it, and a lot of people found us because we're the sanitizer people.
Right.
Which, I mean, everybody did it after that. And then the government decided to chime in and tell us we couldn't sell it or couldn't even give it away. So I think we have 10,000 gallons of sanitizer. If anybody needs any.
Yeah.
10,000.
I still have some in my bar, that we got from different distilleries,
I have like batch 1 through 12. I had to collect sanitizer from our distillery. So I have a whole sanitizer collection. Because they're all in different bottles. We just got whatever we could get. I mean, at one point, it looked like paint bottles.
Right.
These little like squirt bottles that have a little needle nose on the end.
Yes.
So there's at least 8 or 10 different types of bottles, and I still see them all over the place. I mean, I was a sanitizer delivery guy. My truck was just filled with boxes and boxes of sanitizer.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of good that came from it. I got bored. I lived in downtown Dallas at the time, which was a ghost town, and I would just throw 50 bottles of sanitizer in my backpack and a couple bottles of whiskey and just walk around town to any bar that was open.
Right.
And try to sell them, give them hand sanitizer and sell them booze at the same time. So it's kind of fun, but looking back, I mean, I definitely wouldn't want to live that again.
Oh no, 100%.
No,
I mean,
it was terrible.
Yeah, I mean, I knew plenty of people that got infected and that struggled, So it wasn't like it wasn't real. It was real.
Oh yeah.
But I think a lot of distilleries stepped up.
Yeah.
And where that was one segment, other than first responders. Obviously, first responders stepped up big time. But man, distillers really stepped up with hand sanitizer. Looking back, that was one thing that really stuck out in my mind was going to liquor stores and they were open because they were essential.
Essential business.
They were, and
my wine collection was gone.
Yeah,
after COVID.
and buying hand sanitizer and or grain alcohol that you could make your own hand sanitizer.
Yeah.
All you had to do is find some lotion, suntan lotion, and you can make it. And I was making it,
Yeah.
for my team because we couldn't order it.
Yeah.
It was all out.
I mean, at one point, Clay Jenkins he basically said, we need whatever you can give us.
Yeah.
And they would send a truck every week, and we would just put it out in the back on a pallet, whatever we had, and that was for the first responders in Dallas County. That was pretty much where everything was going. If it was a layer on a pallet or if it was a whole pallet full.
Yeah.
I mean, we're hand bottling all this stuff too. That's the other thing. We don't have a machine that's doing this.
Right.
I remember my dad came in. My dad was helping us one day.
That's awesome.
And we're just all sitting on this line, just as doing as much as we can, and we're staying 6 feet apart or whatever. And so, but yeah, I'm glad. I hope to not ever have to be referred to as the sanitizer company ever again. And more about whiskey than sanitizer.
I need a drink.
Yeah. It was a rough couple years.
Hey, podcast listeners, are you in need of some top-notch libations to elevate your next gathering? Look no further than Hoot and Holler Liquor Store in Gun Barrel City, your go-to liquor store for quality drinks. From smooth bourbons to crisp wines and everything in between, Hoot and Holler has one of the largest and most diverse selections in East Texas. Planning a special occasion? Let our experts guide you to the perfect bottle. You'll receive excellent customer service not offered in the big box chains. Visit Hoot and Holler today and let the good times flow.
All right. So we are sampling the unbent, weeded. This is pretty good, in my opinion. It's also
What did you say you were finding? Whiskey?
I taste a little honey at the end of it. It could be after the malt, maybe tasting some of the softer grains. But I'm enjoying that piece. But in essence, I mean, this is your most decorated bottle, correct?
Yeah, that one, I call it the Golden Child. It was also the first release of the unbent line.
Okay.
So we released that one right at 2 years ago. I think it was March of 2022. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what year it is now. We're just talking about 2020. 2022. So yeah, this one, I think last year at the Ultimate Spirits Challenge, which is a well-recognized national competition, this was not only top 100 whiskeys, it was top 100 spirits in the world. A little brand called Blanton's was like 43, and we were like 34. So I say we beat Blanton's at some point on something. It's won double golds, and I think it won a double gold in New York. It won a gold medal and double gold in San Francisco at those two competitions. So I say from coast to coast, it's got some fans. And yeah, it's just a really flavorful whiskey. And when I talk about this one, another story that I like to talk about is that my grandmother makes monkey bread or plucking cake for Christmas every year. And so this whiskey like immediately takes me back there. That's all it takes. She still makes it. She's still with us, but yeah, it just takes me back to like Christmas. It has that like allspice baking
sugars.
It's monkey bread in a glass. So there's days I really enjoy this whiskey, and there's days that I know that it's not going to be my cup of tea because it's a very direct flavor. It's a wheater, yeah. So 60% wheat, 30% corn, and 10% malted barley.
That's great.
Yeah, and it's got what I would say the most powerful nose. And trying all these whiskeys is really fun too, not just because they all come from the same distillery, but they're all so unique and so different. And I think they all kind of taste around 100 proof, but they don't all have that like 100 proof on the dot. So this one tastes, some people, really funny to taste all these side by side and hearing what people say. Some people are like, oh, I absolutely love the wheat. It's their favorite. And some people just put it at the very end. So it can be a very polarizing whiskey, but I think it's got a lot of fans out there. And everybody likes wheat whiskey, even if they don't know that they like wheat whiskey. We joked about, someone said, hey, if you ask somebody if they like wheat whiskey and they say no, and then you say, okay, well, would you try a bottle of Pappy Van Winkle? And they say, yeah, well, then you just contradicted yourself.
Right.
Because Pappy Van Winkle is a wheat mash bill.
Yeah.
So this is not a wheated bourbon. This is going to be a wheat whiskey. So 60%. So straight on all these bottles basically just means that grain is the dominant grain in that whiskey. Same guidelines as bourbon, has to be 51% or more of that dominant grain. So that's why you have a straight malt, straight rye, straight wheat, and a straight bourbon. So yeah, this is the Golden Child. It's got, that Ultimate Spirits Challenge was a good one. I think it was 96 points, which I know a lot of people, it's one of those that, hey, who cares? But 96 points is pretty cool.
You were silver in New York, which was an international competition.
Yep, international.
And then you were gold in San Francisco, which to put in context, well, I've been in the bourbon scheme for a while now, but the same, like 3 years ago, McKenna 10 won the same contest, and that brand exploded not only in notoriety, but also in price. Yeah. Like the same bottle I was buying for $35, now it's $75. I don't think we're going to see that here.
No.
I hope not.
Yeah, it was, I mean, all the whiskeys really were created to be approachable and affordable. We won't talk about the one that is in Texas that is really expensive, but we want everybody to be able to buy our whiskey and go home and like.
Are they in Hill Country?
They are in Hill Country.
Okay. Well, not to be specific.
But yeah, we want people to be able to go and buy the bottle and open it and enjoy it and then come back and get another bottle. I mean, all these unbents are about $50 to $60 a bottle. Bet number 5 is below $30, and so we want you to be able to feel like you can come back and buy another. I mean, it doesn't do me any good as a sales guy for it to sit on your back bar. I want you to drink it and enjoy it. So, yeah, we really wanted. We took a price increase on bet number 5 last year because it was pretty expensive for what it actually is. Yeah. Because in Texas, we don't have a all Texas grain to glass whiskey that is below $30. I mean, we have some Texas whiskeys that are below $30, but they may not be all true Texas grain to glass. And so, again, that's why it was created, was basically to fill that void. But, I say the other brand that brings a lot of light to Texas is that brand that has the T and the X in the front of it that everybody's seen. And that brand was created because at one point in time, there was more Crown Royal being consumed in the state of Texas than in the whole country of Canada. So that's why TX was created, blended, was because there was more Crown being consumed in Texas than the whole country it came from. So We like sweet stuff. That's what we drink here in Texas. We like Dr. Pepper and Bluebell ice cream. And so, it was really created basically for that kind of exact same purpose. So, I don't know where I was going with that story, but yeah, I always like that fun fact that there was more Crown being drank here than anything. So, we really wanted something to be in that Crown Jameson Jack Daniel's style whiskey,
Right.
but Texas and affordable. So,
Yeah.
that's kind of what we're doing.
Yeah. So what is a single barrel tour or single barrel blend? I mean, or not single barrel blend, but a blend experience look like in the distillery? You were just talking about that with the Piggly Wiggly sign.
Yeah.
And so I can come in, or a group can come in, and we can do some fun things.
Yeah,
there, right?
theoretically, I mean, we have, so at any given time, all 4 of these unbent whiskeys are hooked up to a tap system that we just installed a couple of months ago. We were using these real old, just call them what they were like Jimmy rigged, and they were not very functional. But you come in and basically you pick your bourbon, you pick your rye, and you just fill your own bottle, and you write on your label, you do all that. It's a really cool experience to be able to go and like watch you fill your own bottle and put your own label on it. And you can go to Michter's, you can go to Angel's Envy, I think, and do this. But I think we're like the first ones in Texas, and we're going to put a lot of emphasis on it. Kind of moving forward, it's more like a tour and bottling experience kind of thing, where you can come, because a lot of people think that it's a secret. It's not a secret. I mean, you can go up there and you can ask Destiny in the gift shop if she can help you do a bottle fill, and she'll go help you do a bottle fill. It's not rocket science. You just pull a lever and pull another lever and fills it up. So
Right.
it's really cool. I mean, those whiskeys are not for the wicked. I mean, they are hot. They're 125 to 145 proof. So I mean, I have one that's 143 or 144 at home right now, and but it's like you could put it in your truck and drive a couple miles on it.
Right.
But yeah, it's a really cool experience to do, and something that I think is really unique to us in Texas.
Yeah.
And people will hopefully, once it becomes more public knowledge, people will come just to do that.
Yeah.
Because it's a once in a lifetime thing. I mean,
Agreed.
that bottle will never exist ever again.
Yeah.
And the proofs change every single week. So we proof them. We have the 2 guys that run around and move the barrels and everything. They proof them every single Friday because they change depending on temperature. And if there's bottles coming out of it the week prior, I've seen it go from 145 to 141 in a matter of 2 weeks.
Yeah,
So
sure.
losing proof or gaining proof depending on if it's really hot or really cold.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Angel
really-
shares.
yeah,
exist.
they drink a lot in Texas. Those angels do.
She comes in, grabs 3%, and she's gone with it.
Yeah, and that's kind of, I mean, we, in Texas, another thing finance-wise, we have a lot of loss here in Texas. I mean, alcohol evaporates, water evaporates from a barrel.
Yeah.
We lose 15% of that barrel in the first year that we're sitting there. So 15% the first year, and then 5% every year after that. We just were talking to a distillery in Indiana. Maybe it was Indiana. And they said they lose between 1% and 2% every year. We're like, that's cute.
Yeah.
So we basically, once we fill that 53-gallon barrel, we fill it all the way to the brim because we might as well.
Yeah.
Once we dump it 4 years later, it might only have 25 gallons of it. It's half empty. So the angels in Texas drink a lot.
Yeah.
Called Angels Share. So
Yeah, the timetables are quite a bit different because in Texas, we got days where we can be at 30 degrees and up to 80, 85, 90. And so that variation can really play havoc on barrels, but also could be really good for us.
Yeah, no, I think that's what in Texas, we kind of have to lean into something, and that's what we're choosing to lean in on, is that we can get whiskey aged a lot faster. Because I think someone told me that whiskey moves within the barrel at about 60 degrees, 57 degrees, there's an actual temperature. But, when we're talking these 100, it's hot by design. We don't have air conditioning in there. I mean, that's why I don't even go in there in the summer, in the rick house specifically, because it's really hot.
Yeah.
But you're talking these 120-degree days, or 110, 120 inside. And then a few years ago, we had Snowmageddon, and it was -15, -20 degrees. You're talking 140-degree temperature fluctuation. And in Scotland, that's why you never see a Scotch that's generally below 12 years old, because it's like 60 degrees all day, every day.
Right. And
It
rainy.
never changes. So, Kentucky gets a little bit hotter, but their temperatures aren't near as, their gap isn't near as big.
Yeah.
And they're not getting to 110. I mean, we had last summer, I don't know about you guys, but that had to have been the hottest summer I've ever lived through.
100%. Yeah.
I don't think I saw
45
consistent-
days over 100.
Yeah, I don't think I ever saw a consistent 108 to 110 on my thermometer, and it actually that's not the heat index, that's what it actually is outside. So,
A couple of years ago, I chased a barrel that was sourced in Wyoming.
Yeah.
And they did red tip wheat. And I was just given their information by someone else. And so I call them in like March, which is prime season, like, hey,
Yeah.
let's get some bourbon coming down here to East Texas. And they said, well, we don't start issuing samples till June. Well, what's going on?
yeah,
The barrels have to thaw.
yeah,
The barrels are frozen.
yeah,
Up in Wyoming. I just didn't even realize how cold it was.
yeah.
It's crazy.
And we throw the steamers on when it gets that hot in the distillery to make sure that the barrels don't freeze.
Right.
Because they will, yeah.
Yeah. So you guys haven't been super involved in single barrels like where you have a lot of distilleries that go out and they're like, hey, a club or a group or maybe a big store like Specs or Fat Dogs or Goody
Yeah.
that are out here in East Texas. They go out to Buffalo Trace, they go out to Willett, they go out to a variety of places, they go pick a barrel and it's exclusive to them. I haven't seen that yet. Is that coming?
Yeah, it's something that we've discussed, but it's not. It's one of those things we didn't want to build our name on. I use the Maker's Mark example a lot because everybody has a Maker's Mark blend barrel situation at this
Yeah,
point. So
yeah.
from a sales perspective, a distributor perspective, at this point, that guy's got to manage 1,000. There's got to be 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 different Maker's Mark barrels in the state of Texas
Yeah,
alone. And for us, we don't want to. We don't want that to be our selling point. We don't
I
want
have
that to
one
be.
coming.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean,
And
it's great. It's a cool
Yeah,
experience.
Yeah. We did a collaboration with Stanley's, which is a barbecue grill
Yeah.
here in Tyler, and it's one that we picked out from 5 different staves.
Yeah.
And but I mean, there's a good chance that we picked the same stave select, but maybe not.
I think there's something like 1,800 or
Yeah.
2,000
Yes.
different combinations. You
Maybe.
can do.
Yeah.
I mean, we will, the straight from the barrel thing at the distillery is going to be something that we're going to test, pilot.
I like
with
that.
a couple that
I like it.
it's unique. It's an experience in its own because they're coming out and they're actually filling their bottles. They're seeing the distillery. It's very hands-on as opposed to you've done barrel selects before. There's 5 or 6 guys in a room. You pick which barrel, and then 6 months later you get your barrel.
Yeah.
And so for us, this is very, very much like you're coming up to the distillery and you're picking your barrel and then you're filling it, you're writing on your labels and doing that whole, and obviously it's a much quicker process if we're doing it directly at the
Sure.
distillery
Yeah.
and having to navigate. And that's a lot of things that people don't think about as the distributor system is really difficult. I mean, I've heard of barrels making it down to Houston that don't have any, like it would be like Gaylord Texan up in Frisco or in Dallas, their barrel going down to Houston. And it just, because there's so many different pallets that are going in and out, so it's really hard logistically to do it too. So it's not something that we're not going to not do, but we're just not in a rush to do it because we don't want it to be I need a full-time person that's going to be a barrel person.
Yeah.
Picking barrels, helping pick barrels. I don't have time to do that. I'm kind of busy.
Yeah.
And so I think we'll do it at some point, but not right now.
Gotcha. I'm thirsty again.
Yeah.
We're
Same.
gonna have one more pour.
Yeah.
And I'll let you guys decide kind of what you want.
Vault Arms is your premier destination for all things firearms. Extensive selection of handguns, rifles, shotguns, and accessories. Knowledgeable staff to assist you in finding the perfect firearm to fit your needs. State-of-the-art gun range equipped with the latest technology for a safe and thrilling shooting experience. Take advantage of our professional shooting instruction and training programs suitable for all skill levels. Host your next group outing, corporate event, or bachelor party at our spacious and secure shooting facility. Committed to promoting responsible gun ownership and firearm safety. fully licensed and compliant with all state and federal regulations.
All right, we're back. And we've got a new pour. We had some fun times. Y'all like the music so far? Kind of all over the place a little bit, right? Yeah. Try to do my best. All right, so everybody's been poured either the unbent straight bourbon whiskey or the new rye, which, how new is it?
Well, it was released at the distillery on September 22nd, and I put it out in the market in like November, December, so it's just hitting stores. Like we just got specs in total, and it'll hit some independent mom and pops and whatnot here soon. But yeah, it's just now hitting the market. So I mean, it's about as fresh as it could be.
Yeah.
And I'm not historically a huge rye guy, that's why I poured it for myself, because I'm having to teach myself to like it. But this one, for me, is kind of fun to talk about because we use a grain in here called triticale. Have you ever heard of triticale?
No.
Triticale, triticale. I haven't figured out what the actual pronunciation is, but it's a wheat-rye hybrid grain. It is grown here.
Yeah. You don't get like a ton of mint on it.
Yeah.
Like you normally do with rye.
Yeah, so I think the wheat-rye combo, that's 27% of the mash bill, I think it softens up that typical peppery spiciness that you get from a rye, and I think that's why I like it. And I joke about this all the time, even as a 33-year-old, I have really bad acid reflux.
Definitely, I'm right there with you.
And so if I have like 3 or 4 glasses of rye, like a strong rye, I'm gonna be burping fire for like a couple days, I feel like. So,
And I mean, I have a number of good friends, Jeremy included, that struggle with rye. I mean, and whether it's an allergy or not, it doesn't matter. I mean, there's a body reaction to it. And so you're seeing a lot of migration to different type of blends like you've got here. So
yeah, and this one is a 4-grain rye, which I think you may know of some, but I haven't seen a ton of 4-grain ryes on the market.
I haven't seen
4-grain bourbons, maybe.
Yeah, 4-grain, obviously.
But yeah, we use traditional rye. We use the triticale. We use malted barley, and then we use oats, 3% oats. So you've obviously probably tried some oated bourbon or oated mash bills, which we have some experimental R&D mash bills that I don't know if they'll ever make it to the market, but we have some like 50-50 corn and oat mash bills that could be really interesting to try in a couple years. But yeah, we're playing around with some fun little things, and this is just one that I think is going to be a kind of a standout for us. I think it's unique enough, and it's not near as standard as your regular ryes are going to be, that people can try this, and me being a great example, people that may not historically like rye, they try it and they're like, okay, holy shit, I may like rye after all. So I think it's super unique, and I had someone, and you can give me honest feedback at this point, maybe any of y'all, trying these whiskeys.
It's really good.
The guy that runs the Texas Whiskey Trail, a guy named Jake Clements, I was talking to him on Saturday, and he's like, all y'all's whiskeys are just like great. They're all really, really good, but you don't have like a clear front runner, which I think is, I don't know if that's a compliment or an insult. I think it's a compliment, but all the whiskeys are really, really good, but we don't have one that stands out from the others.
Yeah.
For me, I mean, it's the malt, but I think the rye could be one of those that just really kind of shines above everything else.
It definitely tastes like a Kentucky rye.
Yeah.
It'll battle, well, any Texas rye I've ever tasted, for sure. But I think it's up there with some of the Kentucky ryes that I've tasted.
Yeah, and we spend $75 for those of y'all that have.
A couple of you guys got rye. What do you guys think? I mean, it's sweeter.
It's sweeter to me.
Yeah. I mean, that wheat rye hybrid. I mean, wheat is typically going to be a sweeter grain. So I think that kind of adds a good element that we'll just lean back into it. Is that Texans like sweet stuff. I mean, I drink a Dr. Pepper almost every day. But I think,
But it's better than mellow.
It goes really good in bourbon cream. Dr. Pepper and bourbon cream. But yeah, I think the rye is going to be one of those. And for bourbon, people that have the bourbon out there, I think we released this one. I released it on Texas Independence Day last year. So March 2nd. So it's been out on the market just about a year. We spend 75% of the time at the distillery making bourbon, or bourbon mash. The light whiskey is going to be the same mash bill as our bourbon.
Yeah.
Obviously, one goes into our ex-bourbon barrels, one goes into brand new barrels. And then I think we probably spend about 20% of the time making rye, and then the others are kind of fun projects. So these two are going to be really readily available for the most part. Bourbon and rye, you'll see the most of, and then the wheat and the malt, kind of here or there. And then Bendt 5, our goal is to be everywhere. That's the bottle that we can see being in every home bar, across the state of Texas for sure. But, and we're only in Texas right now. I mean,
You're not in any other states?
No, I mean, we'll jump back to COVID that I navigated the direct-to-consumer model.
Yeah.
So we have a website, we have a shop that you can go on and you can buy all of our stuff, and we've shipped to, I think, somewhere in almost 40 states. So we've had bottles in every state, but we're only in Texas, and I think there's a reason for that. First of all, supply.
Yeah.
We don't have enough to just go out and blitz every single state. Second off, if I can't get Texans to drink our Texas whiskey, what makes me think that I'm going to go to Colorado or Ohio or New York and get those people to drink Texas? They don't like us anyways.
I don't know about that.
So why would they want to?
They want to come here.
Yeah.
So come on.
That's true. That's true.
You couldn't get them to.
But yeah, we've had this saying that we really want to own our backyard before we try to do anything crazy. I mean, I'm a team of two, sales wise, and so obviously that coverage wise, we don't have a ton of people. We don't have 40 salespeople out in the market selling.
Right.
So if I want to go launch Georgia, I'm going to go launch Georgia, not anybody else. So we really want to stay true and build our foundation here in our backyard before we try to.
How do you think your role is going to change in the next 6 months? Because I mean, we kind of talked a little bit about how you needed to come out here to East Texas, where beers are $2-3, and mixed drinks are $5 or whatever, compared to the $20-30. I mean, obviously this bottle is going to appeal to us quite a bit more than the 150, 125 special releases by the big boys.
Yeah.
So you're going to get out here quite a bit more. You're going to get out to away from DFW quite a bit more, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to think so. I mean, right now, I have myself and then one other salesperson, and she covers Fort Worth to Denton, and kind of anything in between those two. It's a pretty good area, but once we have a Dallas person and then another Dallas person, and that gives me more freedom to come out and do things like this more often and come and see these smaller markets that I say every big supplier, every big boy just dominates the major markets, and these are where we can kind of shine and have these really good conversations with people, and they can really attach to a story like ours. So it'll give us some freedom or give me some freedom to actually go and hit Tyler, hit Longview, hit these other markets, and even the other direction, Lubbock, El Paso, Abilene, all markets that are major. They're not as big as DFW or Houston or Austin.
Right.
But Austin's another market that I think the saying is true. Austin is very weird, but by design, they really like weird, funky stuff.
Yeah.
If you've had Fierce Whiskers,
no.
Okay, so Fierce Whiskers is a new distillery out of Austin, newish. They have this really funky rye that they released, but Austin's just owning it. I mean, they absolutely love it. Austin's really open to trying different things and being experimental on what they drink, as opposed to Dallas. We'll touch on random that we were talking about earlier.
Yes.
Woodford, the number one market in the country is Dallas.
Yeah.
So that's what those brands thrive in that market. So brands like us, we may not necessarily thrive. I mean, we're going to do
traditional
well.
brands are
traditional brands are what's going to really dominate the market. Yeah. So being able to go out and preach our story to places like this and really kind of just, I think it's going to be a lot more fun over the next 18, 24 months that, while I continue to build the sales team, that'll give me the freedom to go and have fun out in these little towns that I can go and have. I can go and have enchiladas and 2 beers for $18. And the guy in front of me ordered 2 beers and 2 shots for $11.
Yeah.
So I said, in Dallas, you don't get a drink for less than $11, much less 2 drinks and 2 beers.
There's a lot of great things of living in a big city. We've done it a couple times. And there's a lot of great things about living outside the big city. And when people come in and it's just hospitable.
Yeah.
and the pricing is just, it's more in line with what you guys do.
Yeah,
And
it's
so
what we
it's,
preach.
it should be a great market for you.
Yeah,
Should.
I mean, we really preach that. We say we're the whiskey for everyone. I mean, I think while we have 4 different bonded whiskeys, I say if all you guys try this lineup and you couldn't find one whiskey that you liked from this, I did something wrong, or maybe you just really like Kentucky whiskey. I don't know.
Maybe.
But I feel like we have whiskey, something for everybody to latch onto at this point.
I agree.
And even the bourbon cream, which I don't think we're gonna try off camera and offset, but like this one, I mean, it's just everybody enjoys that. So yeah, we really are the whiskey for everybody, which I think is cool.
Yeah, I don't disagree. All right. So at the very end of every show,
Yeah.
I like our guests, because really, I mean, what's different about our podcast is I don't do a lot of talking.
Yeah.
Obviously, I was just doing a lot of yep and asking filler questions and stuff like that, which makes it a little different because it's not about me, it's about our
Sure.
guest. I like for our guest to talk a little bit about somebody who has made it. Oh, we got our train, our first
Yeah.
train.
The second attraction
Yes.
to Mineola,
Mineola,
Texas.
yes, that's right.
Yeah,
Number
right behind the antique shops.
antique
That's what I was told as
and-
the highlight
yes,
of Mineola,
yes.
Texas, is
Uh,
antique shopping and the Amtrak.
But I love you guys to talk about folks that influenced you or impacted you, that currently impact you, formerly, whatever shaped you, who
Yeah.
you are. I just love hearing about those people, and not only that, but they love hearing about
Yeah.
what happened.
I mean, I've worked in the big sector of distributor with a company that was 10, 12,000 people, and you truly feel like a number.
Yeah,
Now down to where my boss is the owner of this company. She is the one woman band. She does as much as she can. And so like for me, like that's been the biggest thing over the last 4 years, is having that like really true relationship with her. Not only learning from her, I mean, we bounced, like we only butted heads a few times, which is really nice. I mean, everybody's probably butted heads with their bosses a lot. But for the most part, like her and I see her as very much like we have conversations like this.
right.
It's not it is a boss-employee relationship, but at the end of the day, like she's been really, obviously, first off, she kept me through COVID, which was huge.
Yeah,
And I feel like at the end of the day, I'm working for somebody that, I went to their house on Saturday and I helped her daughter make brownies that turned out terrible, but like I get to do stuff like that and like really attach myself to somebody in a family that, like at the end of the day, the dollars that I do is not putting food on their table, but like at the end of the day, it's impacting them and impacting, what their kind of mission was. So like Ryan and Natasha have been huge for me.
sure.
4 years later, and I say it all the time. Like I told her, I said, I'll retire with you in this company. I mean, I hopefully only have like 25 more years. I
Right.
I don't want to work till the day I die. I said, I'll tour guide it once I'm done,
Yeah,
or be on the board, whatever. But she's made a huge impact on me, just in professional life and whiskey life. I think we're going to do really good things moving forward. And she's just we joked about this because on Friday last week, we had the Texas Whiskey Association. We had a bunch of distilleries out just to kind of mingle at the distillery. And I don't hang out at the distillery on Fridays and Saturday nights very often. But they were just there hanging out with a bunch of people, and the place is packed. I mean, there had to have been at one point maybe 100 people in there, and inside and outside. It was a nice night. And they're just hanging out like it's just like they're very normal people. Like they don't act snobby. They don't act like they are above anybody. They run a distillery at the end of the day, and I think it's really cool for them, and even for me to go in on a Friday night when I'm not there, and the place be really busy and thriving, and people are enjoying it.
yeah,
The one funny thing that we joke about all the time is that we have every year, if you guys like to dress up and come to fun parties, we do a wingding, pre-prohibition. You dress up in fancy gowns, and guys wear the stupid hats and suspenders and everything. And one year, and she'll literally go behind the bar and wash dishes. Like we all do it. Like we're one team, one dream.
Sure.
And one year she's washing dishes, and the couple sitting at the bar was like, man, I wonder where the owners of this place are. I bet they're on their like yacht or something in the middle of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
And she didn't say anything. She just left it at that. Like, but to be able to hear that, like, it's not a glamorous life by any means. So, yeah, they made a huge impact. My dad's been one of those people that, you know, my parents in general. My dad's a 40-year veteran in the industry, and I get to lean on him a lot on things, and vice versa. So, and I've got a really good support system around it, and we all kind of support each other. At the end of the day, we're all fighting for the same end result.
Yeah.
Which is just to sell as much whiskey as we possibly can.
Sure.
But I think that when we have a whole group of people that are collectively fighting for the same goal, it makes it a lot more enjoyable.
Yeah.
We had 20 people today at the distillery. We had cooked up burgers, and everybody brings a side. That's the kind of people that they are and that we are, like, identify as a company. So.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say your golf coach.
No, I had the same golf coach since I was 13. Yeah, he helped me, and I let him down because he joked that
I'm not browbeating you.
once I made the PGA Tour, I was going to buy him a new truck, and I never made the PGA Tour, so I didn't get to buy him a truck.
Man, I almost did the same thing. I went to be an assistant pro and trying to get my card, and failed getting my card twice, and it cost me a lot of time and just a lot of emotional stress, and it sucked.
Yeah.
And so I completely understand everything you said. You're traveling, and it just stinks.
Yeah, my parents backed me and supported me 100% on that. That they said, hey, you don't try to be a professional golfer when you're 40.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so try it when you're 22 years old, 23 years
right.
old. And I can say I tried it. It was fun. I mean, I got a couple paychecks. That was about it.
Yeah, me, same.
I had to give it back to my parents, though, because it wasn't my money to keep.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, just really good to have a nice support system.
The Hooters tour was really good at getting you drunk.
Yeah.
But not paying you.
Yeah, I mean, I remember being down in deep South Louisiana, and I was like, yeah, we get crawfish after.
We probably played against each other.
Yeah, Houma, Louisiana. I remember that. It was about the size of Mineola, Texas.
Oh, yeah.
Houma, Louisiana.
Yeah. Thank
I
you.
had a hole-in-one there.
Oh, did you win
My claim
anything?
to fame.
What'd
Yeah,
you win?
$250.
250.
Yeah, that was the skin purse for the day. It was like $500. Some guy holding on number one for an eagle, and so he got a skin on that hole, and I got the skin on the hole.
Oh, right.
So that was kind of my claim. That's the only reason I'll ever remember Houma, Louisiana. It's because I had a hole-in-one there. I couldn't tell you where it is, but it was deep South Louisiana.
Deep South
Louisiana.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the bayou.
Yes. 100%.
In the bayou, yeah.
Yeah. A lot of skeeters down there.
You could put saddles on them and ride them.
Right. Well, thank you so much
Yeah.
for coming on, man. It's been a blast.
Yeah.
Talking
Thanks for
about Bendt Distilling, man, in Louisville, Texas.
Yep.
Awesome presentation. We're going to get into the bourbon cream after
Yep.
we get finished. These folks are really going to get a treat with the whiskey cake because, like, my parents went through the whole thing. We get done with the sampling, and my mom is a very decisive person, like very, nah, I don't want this, I want that. And she got to the whiskey cake and the bourbon cream, and it was like, boom.
It's a showstopper.
And she was like, another. And so, then it turned into 2 cakes, and
We just put them on Amazon. You can order these things on Amazon.
oh, don't
Yeah,
tell
well,
her that.
shit.
Don't tell her that.
Yeah.
Raleigh, don't do that.
I tell
She
you,
will be ordering it every week.
I'll leave it at every year. I carve out one full week in December.
Yeah.
And, while we're a very small company, my tokens of appreciation for my customers is that I load 100 to 200 whiskey cakes in my truck. I come and I pick them up on a daily basis, and I just drive from account to account.
Don't let anybody know where you're at, because they will
Like-
hold you up.
Yeah, and now I don't want to be known as the sanitizer guy, but I'm known as the cake guy that shows up in
man.
December with
So
whiskey
good.
cake. I mean, it's a pretty good plan to come to your customers right before the holidays
100%.
with cake to help them, keep front of mind and do some more sales
Yeah,
for us. But
yeah.
I say I make a lot of people happy with those things.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for driving out to East Texas.
Of course. Yeah.
And really enjoyed our conversation. And thanks for presenting your complete line here. And you're going to
We're gonna
continue
yeah.
to present it after we're done. We've got a stacked couple of weeks here pretty soon on Spirit Squared. next week, or next episode, we have at Humidor, Blake's place here. We've got Chris and Jenny Rice that are going to be on. They've got a unique experience that they do that we're going to showcase. And then after that, we've got Matt Gaskill with Gaskill Knives that's going to come on and talk to us about the unique way that he makes his knives. And then after that, we have a very interesting guest. He is a retired homicide detective that's going to start a trilogy, or maybe even more, hopefully more, of solved murders that he solved 46 murders throughout his whole career, and he's going to start with the murder that he thinks is most impactful, and I can't wait to do that. It's going to be on my birthday, so
That's
it's going to
cool.
be interesting. But nonetheless,
Talk about death all day.
well, I mean, he sent me some pictures that are pretty graphic, and I'm like, let's not feature those. But it's going to be, everybody appeals to that type of podcast, and I get that. But these are great. I mean, this is in my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for coming over. Really appreciate you doing this. And we'll enjoy some bourbon cream here soon. Thanks so much. All right. All right.